wind was hot that afternoon, the kind that carried sand and shame together. Zainab stood outside the iron gate of the Adiwale family compound, clutching her newborn in one arm and her hospital bag in the other. Her wrapper was soaked with sweat and breast milk. The baby whimpered softly. She knocked once. No one answered. Then the gate creaked open, but not by the housemaid she had expected. It was Mama Adiwale, her mother-in-law. The old woman's face twisted into a sneer the moment she saw them. Her headscarf was tight, her arms folded like stone. "What are you doing here?" she spat. Zainab blinked. "Mama, I just came back from the hospital." You think you'll bring that bastard child into my son's house?" Mama Adiwale hissed. "Go back to wherever you came from." Zainab's throat tightened. Her baby shifted, sensing the tension. "What are you talking about? This is my husband's child." Mama Adiwale stepped forward. "That baby doesn't look like my blood. I warned my son about you. Sharp mouth, fancy education. You think you're too smart. Well, not in my house." Zainab tried to speak, but the gate slammed shut. A sharp clang that echoed in her chest like a gunshot. She stood there for a long time. No one came. No one opened. By nightfall, she was sitting by the road outside the compound, rocking her child under the streetlight. The heat had cooled, but the silence around her was louder. A neighbor, a young woman named Kemi, brought her water and a mat to lie on. Zainab didn't cry. She just kept rocking. When her husband, Kunal, finally called hours later, his voice was distant, cold. "My mother said the baby doesn't look like me," he said flatly. "She doesn't lie." Zainab closed her eyes, swallowed hard. "So what now?" There was a pause. Then he replied, "Until we're sure, you can't stay in the house." The call ended. She stared at the phone for a long time, then looked down at her baby's face. Round cheeks, bright eyes. A soft coo escaped his lips. "I know the truth," she whispered to him, "and I'll prove it." The next morning, she walked to the nearest clinic and requested a DNA test. "For the baby's father?" the nurse asked. Zainab nodded slowly, but her voice was steady. "Yes, and for the father's father too." The nurse paused, confused. Zainab didn't explain. She didn't need to. She was done begging. She was ready for answers. But what she didn't know was that the results would shatter everything the Adiwale family believed about themselves. And someone who had kept a secret for over 30 years, was about to be exposed. The DNA test has been initiated, but Zainab isn't just testing for her husband's paternity. She's digging into a deeper secret, one even she doesn't fully understand yet. The clinic was quiet. Too quiet. Zainab sat with her baby in her lap, her eyes fixed on the tiled floor as the nurse pressed a cotton swab against the inside of the baby's cheek. The little boy didn't cry. He just looked up at his mother, curious, innocent, oblivious to the storm around him. Then it was Kunal's turn. He didn't look at Zainab. He hadn't since he arrived. He wore his white native kaftan like a shield, iron stiff, spotless. His jaw clenched as the nurse approached with the swab. "This is unnecessary," he muttered, barely moving his lips. "You know what you did." Zainab didn't flinch. "You're right. I do." The nurse, caught between the Cold War in the room, worked quickly. When she finished, she labeled the samples and stepped out to place them in the lab cooler. Then she turned back. "And for the grandfather?" Zainab nodded. "He'll be here soon." Kunal snapped his head toward her. "What is this?" "You said the baby doesn't look like you," she replied calmly. "So let's make sure who you look like." He blinked, confused. "Are you mad?" "No," she said, holding her son closer. "But someone is lying, and I'm tired of being the only one questioned." Just then, the door opened again, and into the room walked Chief Adiwale, the family patriarch. Tall, stern-faced, with graying temples and a presence that made most people shrink. He smelled of tobacco and leather. His walking stick tapped slowly against the floor as he approached. Kunal stood up immediately. "Daddy? What are you doing here?" "I came because your wife called," the old man said, his voice deep and steady. "She asked politely, That's more than I can say for you. Zainab's gaze didn't leave his face. There was no fear in her eyes. He looked at the baby once, then at the nurse. Let's get on with it. Kunal stared at them both, stunned. This is insane. His father shot him a sharp look. What's insane is that you let your wife sleep on the street with your child because of hearsay. Kunal swallowed hard but said nothing. The test was done quickly. Then they were told to wait 5 working days. 5 days of silence. 5 days of sideways glances. Zainab moved in temporarily with Kemi, the kind neighbor, sharing her 1-bedroom flat and bathing her son in a blue plastic basin. Kemi didn't ask too many questions. She just cooked extra rice, gave Zainab the bed and said, God will fight for you. Kunal never called. But Mama Adiwale did. Only once. She didn't greet. She didn't ask about the baby. She simply said, you can do your little test, but I already know the truth. And when the results come back, don't bother coming near my gate again. Zainab smiled, even though her hands trembled. Thank you, Mama. She ended the call. And just like that, Friday came. The results had arrived. The nurse called. Madam Zainab, we have the outcome. You can come in today before 4 p.m. Zainab stood frozen. This was it. But when she reached the clinic door, she wasn't ready for what the envelope would reveal, because the child wasn't Kunal's. And neither was Kunal the biological child of the man he called Daddy. The results are in, and they don't just reveal one truth, they expose 2 generations of lies. Zainab's child isn't Kunal's, but the real shock? Kunal himself isn't who he thinks he is. The clinic's waiting room was too bright, sterile. White walls, white chairs, white envelopes. Everything felt like it was holding its breath. Zainab sat with the baby cradled against her chest, his tiny fingers clutching her scarf. Kunal sat 2 chairs away, arms folded, legs bouncing. Chief Adewale stood near the window, back straight, expression unreadable. The nurse returned with a single brown envelope. She looked nervous. These are the official results, she said. They were verified twice. Zainab nodded. Her palms were damp. Kunal reached forward to grab the envelope, but the nurse handed it to Zainab instead. You're the legal spouse. It was filed in your name. Kunal scoffed, leaning back. Zainab opened the envelope slowly, carefully, as if afraid it might bite. She read it once, then again. Then she looked up, her face pale but calm. The child is not Kunal's, she said. The room froze. Kunal jumped to his feet. I knew it, he barked. Liar. I knew it. But Zainab didn't flinch. She held up her hand like a stop sign. There's more. She turned the second page. And Kunal is not Chief Adewale's biological son either. Silence. Kunal's face twisted. What are you talking about? She handed him the paper. He snatched it and scanned the lines quickly. The words no biological match seemed to leap off the page. He turned to his father, trembling. Daddy. Chief Adewale didn't say a word. He simply looked out the window. Kunal's mouth opened and closed like a drowning man. This can't be. Daddy. Say something. But the chief's jaw tightened. His silence roared louder than any scream. Zainab whispered, I did this test to prove the baby's truth, but it also exposed yours. Kunal turned to her, eyes red. What are you trying to say? That I'm adopted? She looked at him sadly. I don't know, but someone does. Chief Adewale finally turned. His face was steel. This conversation is over. He walked out without another word. Kunal stood frozen, the envelope trembling in his hand. Daddy, he called out, but there was no answer. Only the echo of footsteps down the tiled hallway. Later that night, back at Kemi's place, Zainab sat by the window as her baby slept beside her. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Meet me tomorrow, 11 a.m., at the old family estate in Ijibu. Come alone. Mama Adiwale. Zainab stared at the message, her heart thudding. Why would Mama want to see her? What did she know? And what was buried at that old estate? The road to the old family estate in Ijibu was narrow and dusty, lined with palm trees and silence. Zainab hadn't been there before. Few had. It was where Kunal's grandfather had lived before the Adiwales became city people, before money erased roots. She arrived just before 11 a.m., as instructed. The air was thick with humidity. The estate was still majestic despite its age, wide compound, crumbling colonial walls, wooden veranda covered in dry leaves. A place where old secrets lingered in the cracks. Mama Adewale was already there, sitting under the shade of a mango tree in a faded lace wrapper. No guards, no noise, just her and the wind. "You came," she said without looking up. "I came," Zainab replied, setting her bag down slowly. Her baby was with Kemi. Mama nodded. "Good, because it's time you knew what kind of family you married into." Zainab remained standing, watching the woman who had called her a whore just days ago. Mama cleared her throat and began. Her voice was brittle like dry paper catching flame. "Kunal is not Chief Adiwale's biological son. That part is true. But it wasn't my doing." Zainab didn't speak. She let her talk. "I married Chief when I was just 19. He was powerful, respected, but he wasn't kind. He beat me the night of our wedding, and many nights after that. He wanted children, but his own body was the problem. 2 doctors confirmed it. He was sterile." She paused, blinking away something in her eye. "But a man like Chief couldn't accept that. So when I became pregnant, he celebrated. Except he wasn't the father." Zainab's breath caught. "Then who was?" Mama looked up. For the first time, her eyes were soft. "A man I loved before the marriage. A teacher. Poor. Gentle. I only saw him once after the wedding. But that night gave me Kunal. I never saw him again." Zainab sat down slowly, the ground hard beneath her. "And Chief never knew?" "Oh, he knew," Mama said bitterly. "But he needed an heir. So he lied to the world. And I lied with him." She reached into a plastic bag and pulled out a small brown envelope. "This is the birth certificate from the hospital in Ijibu, and the letter that man wrote me before he died." Zainab took it carefully, her hands trembling. The letter was yellowed with age, the handwriting shaky. But it was clear, the man had loved Mama. He had loved Kunal even from a distance. "So why do this now?" Zainab asked. "Because I accused you of bringing shame to this family," Mama whispered. "But the shame started long before you. I see that now." Zainab stared at her. "And the baby?" Mama looked away. "I don't know who the father is, but I know he isn't Kunal. I still don't forgive you for that. But I won't stand in your way anymore." She stood, bones creaking. "You can tell Kunal the truth. Or not. That's your burden now." She walked away slowly, leaving Zainab alone beneath the mango tree. But just as Zainab opened the envelope again, her phone buzzed. A message from Kunal. "I saw the results. Don't come near my house again. But if you think you can raise my son without consequences, you're wrong." Zainab read it twice. Then she looked back at the house behind her. Because now she knew something Kunal didn't. He wasn't just fatherless. He was dangerously like the man who raised him. 3 days passed. Zainab didn't reply to Kunal's message. She didn't call. She didn't return to the Adewale compound. She focused on her child, her healing, and the documents Mama had given her. Every time she held the baby, she whispered, "You are not your father's shame. You are your mother's truth." But the silence was short-lived. On Thursday evening, just after 7 p.m., Kemi's door shook with hard, angry knocks. "Open this door," a voice thundered. Zainab froze. Kemi peeked through the curtain and gasped. "It's Kunal. And 2 men." Zainab's heart pounded. She scooped her baby and backed away from the door. "Don't open it." But Kemi was already trembling. "They'll break it down." The knocking turned into banging. "Zainab, you think you can humiliate me and hide? You're still my wife." Zainab stood tall, even as fear clawed her chest. "Call the police," she told Kemi. "Now." Kemi nodded and ran to grab her phone. Outside, the banging stopped, then a loud crash. The wooden door burst open. Kunal stormed in, eyes bloodshot, shirt half-buttoned, veins bulging. "Give me my son." Zainab held her baby tighter. He's not yours. The test said. Lies. Connell roared. You rigged it. Just like you rigged your way into this family. The two men with him stood awkwardly at the door, clearly unsure of what they'd walked into. One of them, older, whispered, Sir, this is not right. Zainab stepped back, voice firm. Touch me or my child, and I swear. Before she could finish, flashing red and blue lights lit up the room. The police had arrived. Connell turned sharply. You called them? Zainab didn't answer. Two officers entered. Mr. Connell Adewale, you're trespassing and threatening a nursing mother. Step outside. I'm her husband. Not by law anymore, Zainab said. Her voice didn't shake this time. The divorce papers were filed this morning. Connell's mouth opened, then closed. The officers stepped forward. We'll escort you home. If you come near her again without a court order, you'll be arrested. As they let him out, Connell turned and glared. This isn't over, Zainab. She didn't blink. It already is. That night, Kemi changed the locks. Zainab held her baby close as he slept, whispering prayers into the crown of his head. She thought about everything, Mama's confession, the DNA, the broken legacy. Her story was no longer about proving the baby's father. It was about protecting her child from becoming another Connell. But the next morning, a stranger knocked on the door. He wore a gray suit, had kind eyes, and held an envelope. I'm sorry to disturb you, he said. My name is Mr. Adebayo. I was the lawyer of a man named Yusuf Omateo, your late husband's real father. Zainab's heart skipped. I have a letter for you, he said softly, and an account in your baby's name. A letter from the past has found its way to Zainab's doorstep, along with an inheritance tied to a man she never met, but whose blood runs in her baby's veins. What's inside may rewrite everything again. Zainab sat across from Mr. Adebayo in Kemi's tiny living room, the envelope resting untouched between them. Her baby was asleep in the next room, his chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. The lawyer looked calm, patient. Who exactly was Yusuf Omateo? Zainab asked. Mr. Adebayo leaned forward. He was a teacher, quiet man, lived in Ijebu most of his life, never married, no children officially. Zainab swallowed. You mean he was Connell's real father? Yes, Adebayo said softly. Yusuf confided in me many years ago. He suspected he had a son, but the mother, your mother-in-law, cut off all contact. He said she was married to a wealthy man, and he didn't want to interfere. Still, he kept track from a distance. Always asked about a boy named Connell. Zainab felt something tighten in her throat. So why come now? Because before he died, he updated his will. He said if anything ever confirmed Connell's parentage, or if Connell ever had a child, that child must be given what was left of his estate. He handed her the envelope. Hands shaking, Zainab opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, gentle, filled with longing. It spoke of regret, of love, of wanting to give something to a child he never met. There was also a certificate of deposit for a fixed account in her son's name. 7 million naira. Zainab blinked hard, lips parting. This is real? Mr. Adebayo nodded. Real. And legal. She stared at the paper, not for the money, but for what it meant. Her son might have been rejected by Connell, but he wasn't fatherless. He came from a man who had loved quietly, honored boundaries, left dignity in his absence. Later that day, Zainab took a walk with her baby. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold. She passed the compound where the Adewales lived. The gates were locked, the house silent. Mama Adewale sat alone in the front yard, staring into space. Zainab paused. Their eyes met. For the first time, Mama didn't scowl. She didn't speak either, just gave the tiniest nod. Zainab returned it. No hatred, no warmth, just closure. She walked on. Weeks passed, then months. Zainab started working again, freelance accounting from her small apartment. She joined a women's support group. She laughed more, slept better, sang lullabies to her baby without fear. One morning at a parenting seminar, someone recognized her. You're that woman, The one they threw out, and the test exposed everything. Zainab smiled gently. Yes, that was me. Wow, you're strong. No, Zainab said softly. I was simply tired of being quiet. As the woman walked away, Zainab looked down at her baby, who was now crawling across the mat with fierce determination. She whispered to him, They tried to erase you, tried to erase me. But look at us, we're still here. She picked him up, kissed his forehead. He giggled, and just like that, the shame the world tried to hang on her shoulders fell off like dust. Because Zainab had found something stronger than revenge. She found peace. Zainab's story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about identity, dignity, and breaking free from inherited pain. And though the DNA test exposed secrets, it also unlocked her freedom. Not every family begins in truth, but with courage, a new one can rise. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Thank you. We hope to see you in our next video.